Boo.
What the fuck was that? Are they doing construction?
At this time?
At this time of day?
This time of day? Possibly.
Probably.
You guys know how, like, when you go into a house and somebody's making French toast, it's a metaphor, you know.
This movie was a metaphor for
Welcome
French
to the
toast.
pod, people! And we're back with another Minipod. I'm your host, Veronica, and I'm joined by my good friends Rosa and Deanna.
Cantea. It makes your
floor
floors
so
really
shiny.
clean and shiny.
So I'm actually Matisse Van Rossum, and I'm joined as always by Eugene Lundeen.
I wet the bed again, guys. I promise it won't happen again. But I can't promise that I won't wet my chair, so we'll have to see how this episode goes.
What do you have to say about that, Ben Sheets?
I don't know. I just can't see what he's doing. My eyes are rolled into the back of my head like the Undertaker.
Do you think the Undertaker does that because he sees demons and he doesn't want to see them anymore?
I think he sees the demons in his head.
Oh, shit.
No, that's Randy Orton and their voices.
They talk to me.
So this week we're coming at you with a review of the 2017 Spanish horror flick Veronica that's been very popular on Netflix recently. This review was requested by friend of the show, Katie Connell. Thank you for your recommendation, Katie. This movie is directed by Paco Plaza, who did the first 3 of the 4 Rec movies.
Yeah.
I've only seen the first one, but I liked it.
Yeah, I've only seen the first 2. I thought it was a pretty solid, early found footage movie.
Yeah, I saw the first one for the first time like 2-ish years ago, I guess, but I had seen Quarantine when it came out, the American remake, and that's a very stupid movie.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Rec is it's super short. It's only like 70 minutes, I think, 70, 80 minutes. So it doesn't have a chance to overstay its welcome, which I think is the reason why people like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for its premise, it works pretty well in a short time frame.
Yeah.
But anyway, this movie is one of those based on a true story, demonic possession kind of things.
Yeah, I don't know why they did the based on the true story thing. I feel like it kind of hindered it.
No, because they began the movie with this. It's a police call. The girl frantically asking for help. Someone's in the house, and then there's a subtitle crawl once the officer gets there, re-explaining that the officers were called to this apartment because someone was calling for help, and then the movie does the classic thing. It jumps back 3 days earlier.
Yeah, so we get to see the escalation up to whatever spookiness is going on. I mean, I guess this supposedly is based on a true story, something that happened in Spain in 1991. It says an 18-year-old, after playing with Ouija boards with 2 classmates prior, 6 months prior, started to experience strong paranormal activity in her home, and then she died on August 14th, 1991. And then there was some more paranormal activity, and only 1 police report was filed by the Spanish police.
I've heard a lot of people compare this to like The Conjuring, but where in The Conjuring, the investigators, like the Warrens, right?
Right.
They come in around like the halfway point, so that's really what the movie's built around when they get there. Whereas with this, it's just sort of like an excuse to just tell a basic like demon possession story. So I don't even know what the real or like what paranormal stuff. They show something at the end, but it's like,
well, yeah,
does it say in the report?
I mean, all I'm looking at is on the fucking IMDb. It just says that the supernatural events increased in regularity after she died, and that the police report details the supernatural events observed in the house. I don't know if you want to go try to track it down.
Yeah, I feel like
I
in
wish.
most demonic possession movies, you get those exorcist, demon hunter characters, ghost hunter kind of characters.
Because that's how
Right.
you sort of add the legitimacy in a
you
way.
ground it. a
Exactly
little bit
right.
more,
You ground
know?
it. You give people a reason to be like, oh, like how was this? How does anyone know this actually happened? It's because there were investigators or other people that wanted
Yeah.
to
Who
were
document
there and
it.
witnessed
Which I mean,
it.
you know, I like that they didn't have those investigators. I thought it was interesting.
I think that would have made it more obnoxious.
But the problem is they didn't do anything interesting with the demonic stuff besides that.
Right,
You
and
know,
if you're
like-
not going to do anything with like the police report stuff, then just don't. I feel like it's such a weird bookend to try and tie it into this investigation that doesn't really get explored in the actual movie, because most of it's centered around this girl Veronica going crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I had seen the preview for this the first time, I thought that it seemed like The Conjuring. After watching it, it does seem very much like a James Wan film, but more like Insidious than The Conjuring. Which, I mean, Insidious is a film that I'm extremely lukewarm on in general. I think The Conjuring is much better, but it's just a very like by the numbers evil ghost / demon
Yeah.
haunting a family story.
Yeah, it felt very uninspired in how much it kind of followed the tropes of the genre. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I said in the last episode that I was hoping that there would be like a more unique like cultural perspective. Maybe get some more like, because it takes place in Madrid, so maybe get like some sort of like Spanish ghost lore or something like that. But I mean, it really didn't feel like.
Well, they oddly incorporated Norwegian.
Yeah, like when
Satanic stuff.
she starts being haunted, this booklet she has gives her like a Norse protection symbol that she draws all over the place. That I thought that was really weird.
She tells at one point in the movie, she tells her like 4-year-old brother to draw like this super complicated like icon that's supposed to like be a symbol of protection.
Well, I don't know why she did that either. I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but when she draws them and like hangs them up on the wall or like from the ceiling earlier, the demon just sets them on fire, like no problem. And then
Yeah.
she tells her 4-year-old brother to go scribble this extremely complex warding symbol all over the walls of the house.
They've already shown that stuff doesn't work at all.
Right. No, that was a bit confusing to me. But to back up, to give a little more context while Eugene is still researching,
It's so hard to find anything specific. Certainly, because it says it's been verified by police that were investigating it, but it doesn't actually say anything that happened to them that made them say that.
that sounds like a hoax.
And also that this happens over a 3-day period in the movie, but in real life this was like over a 6-month period.
Yeah, why did they have to
And,
condense it so much?
I guess it just
You gotta raise the stakes.
Okay.
If it was 6 months,
Well, I don't
you know,
what's
like-
there. I mean, it would have been. I guess that's just not as cool of a time to start going crazy. It
if
needs to happen.
if
That's
she's
like a weekend.
slowly haunting her family over 6 months, it's not as spooky as if it's all in 3 days.
That did happen really fast. That's
I mean,
a good point.
I know we're being facetious, but I do think it might have been interesting had it been over a longer period of time. To sort of have like a slow burn, like I think would make the like her madness seem more interesting rather than just like this very dramatic escalation over the next 3 days.
I agree in theory, but I think in practice, I don't know if I'd trust them to do that correctly.
I don't
in
know
this
if I would
movie,
either.
considering how they followed through on a lot of the stuff as it is now.
One of the problems I had with it while watching is it feels all so rushed. like once the spooky stuff begins to happen, it feels like nothing is really set up or explained enough to the point where it sort of occurs, and then she figures out a way to try and fix it, which seems incredibly obvious. There's just like little conflicts that are set up with like the friends, because she does this the seance. The reason why all this spooky stuff begins to happen is because
we should start there
during a eclipse, which their science teacher is talking about, I guess, and then she goes into this whole other thing about human sacrifice, which, like, get on the topic, lady.
She's like, you'll talk about more of this later in history class.
Yeah, so she like openly acknowledges, like, yeah, I just want to bring this shit up. Her and her friends go down, and she wants to try and talk with her father, who I guess they don't explain how he died, but it's just assumed that he.
But she brings a picture of him
with a nice hefty
holding an enormous bowl of paella.
See, I would have preferred that if she did the seance and they got the paella back, and if that was haunting her throughout the movie.
Haunted paella. Now there's an idea for a movie.
So much shrimp and chicken that had to die for this. They're angry.
It's a spectral bowl of paella haunting somebody with a severe shellfish allergy. She and her friends go and down into the basement of the school and use like a toy Ouija board to try to contact the ghost of her father, and it comes with these like instruction booklets that it calls the Encyclopedia of the Occult, but they just look like spooky zoo books.
Yeah,
y'all remember zoo books back in the day? That was the shit, dude.
Yeah, I never had any. My parents would never buy them.
Oh, no,
I would only check them out from the library.
Bingo. Yep, that's what I did too, because my parents were not about to get me those zoo books on fucking TV, but they had them in the library. But anyway, just like the fact that they have this like toy Ouija board that like contacts a demon that starts haunting Veronica with instructions on how to do such that you can just buy in the store is like if fucking Hasbro was selling like actually haunted Ouija boards. Like if that supernatural themed Ouija board that you have, Eugene, like would actually contact demons.
Oh yes, yeah, and supernatural, not like, you know, it's haunted. It's
no, but like the show.
The show is supernatural. But I did find it on the side of the road, so
it might actually be.
It's a supernatural Ouija board.
All the better.
Haven't gotten to try it. No one wants to try it with me.
We don't have the proper method to say goodbye to whatever we greet within it.
Ouija boards are just. It seems like a great cop out for any screenwriter out there, just like creative demonic presence. Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure even in The Exorcist they use a Ouija board.
Well, at least usually in movies like that, the Ouija board will be like one that they found in the attic of this old house, or that was like passed down to them by like a mysterious great aunt or something.
That's true, right?
But this is one that they just bought at the store with instruction booklets that she ends up using to try to banish the demon later. Instruction booklets from like a Hasbro Ouija board.
Which is strange too. They set up the whole.
That's where she gets the Viking warding symbol too.
But she, because they make that point about human sacrifices on an eclipse, but what they're doing isn't a sacrifice or anything at all. They're trying to. So they could have done that Ouija board seance stuff on any night.
Well, see, that's what I was thinking too. I thought surely at least the way
I thought they were gonna kill a cat or something.
Like surely
she points at her bag.
At least the way they were portraying the eclipse at the beginning and all of like the symbolism and like the match cuts that they would do with like the sun being eclipsed and stuff like that. I thought surely that was like significant. But then later they just do another seance like 3 days later, like in their house.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, and at the end of the first seance, the Ouija board splits in half and she tapes it back together for the second seance. and it just splits in half again. But why doesn't she just go out and buy another Ouija board?
That's true.
She did it. She did it earlier because she needed the instruction booklets, but she threw out the Ouija board. Why didn't she just use that one?
Because it's sort of established the board itself isn't the important part, or at least it shouldn't be. I mean, it's
guess.
like mass produced. She buys it from like a magazine stand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Fucking plastic wrapped and with these zoo book instruction booklets.
Yes. Well, the other thing about this character Veronica is that her mother is a very busy woman working at a bar, so she's
For like
sort of
a million hours a day.
Right. She shows up like once in the house, and then the rest of it she's either at the bar or like coming back to the house. For
Right.
a scene.
So 15-year-old Veronica has to basically play mother to her 3 younger siblings.
Which first when at first I thought it was just she was gonna be like a teen single mother or something. I'm like, that's fucked up. She already has 3 kids. Like, damn.
Yeah, she way too young.
Yeah.
But-
Like, she sells braces and everything, and she's as they explain after the seance goes wrong that she also has not been on her period yet. So like a lot of great horror movies about possessions of especially young females, it's also it's about a womanly passage.
It's a metaphor, Eugene.
Yes, like French toast.
Do you know what a metaphor is?
Shit, I don't think so.
You're
Certainly-
in ninth grade. You should know what a
Certainly
metaphor
not
is.
the way
Well-
this movie explains it.
We should get into that first seance a little bit more. So, like, you have a bunch of kids up on the roof watching this eclipse through, like, 2 pieces of negative film.
Which I guess is a way that you can view an eclipse, but not the way that they were doing it.
Yeah, no, they were just holding, like, developed film.
Yeah, just like up in front of their eyes.
But it was cutting between that and the seance. And then, like, we get our first introduction to a character named Sister Death.
Right.
Who
Because
just-
this is of course is a school run by nuns.
Yes, because of course,
Because of course.
you know, like Spain.
Spain and it's Catholic.
Yep. We get our first look at her, and first thing we see is she has Undertaker eyes.
Yeah, well, she's blind, so they do the whole like, oh, white blind eyes,
Yeah, which no actual blind person has, you know.
unless their eyes have gone real milky. It happens sometimes.
I mean,
Get that milky eye.
yeah.
That
But-
first shot of her, you know what it just reminded me of though? Like as soon as I saw it, it looks exactly like the movie poster for The Devil Inside.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact
Did
same
you guys
thing.
ever see that really shitty movie,
Yeah.
The Devil Inside?
Well, I feel like it's a played out trope having spooky nuns with scary eyes. Like,
right. No, it absolutely is. But I think in The Devil Inside, it was because the nun was possessed or something,
Yeah.
not just
Right,
because
no,
she
this
was
is
the
a-
Undertaker.
well,
It's
that's
like-
what I thought it was going to be. And
Right,
I guess
me
she
too.
kind of is, you know.
She's a good spooky nun, if not she doesn't really understand personal boundaries.
yeah, she keeps like sniffing Veronica, like blowing cigarette smoke
Get
in her
enough.
hair.
Like she talks sometimes and you can see like her breath pushing Veronica's hair. It's like, get back, lady.
Like, seriously, I understand you're blind, but back the fuck up.
Yeah.
I mean, she is basically Sister Exposition. Like, that's what she really is.
She's the wise old mage who also understands the way of the spirits.
Right.
What?
Because she blinded herself because she also saw demons, but then she realized that you see demons with your mind and not with your eyes or something.
Man, that whole character was pretty dumb and unnecessary.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, from there we just we get several scenes of her taking care of her siblings, and spooky things start happening around the house.
The hot water gets turned on in her little brother's bathtub while she's out of the room.
Yeah. her bag keeps falling off of
The bag with the Ouija
high
board
cabinet.
keeps falling off the cabinet over and over again.
The Simon game she has keeps beeping at her.
Yeah. And then anytime anything like actually demonic happens, it always does that thing where, oh, she wakes up and it was just a dream.
Yeah, there were too many dream sequences.
But then she's got like a handprint bruise on her
Yeah.
arm or something, which has been done a million times before.
Yeah, or a bite mark. Or...
Yeah. Well, there's that great scene. I thought it was great. Maybe not in the way they intended, but still great, where she wakes up one morning and then her little sisters and brother come in and start jumping on her bed and asking her to make them breakfast, and then they just start biting her and like tearing off huge chunks of her flesh, and then she wakes up and it was just a dream.
Yeah, which I found that whole scene really funny.
I thought it was really funny too, just like all of these little kids just like biting her like little zombies. But I will say the practical effects in that scene were very good.
Yeah,
I feel like that kind of stuff can't be too hard to do though. Like get some latex, put it on the arm, like a little like blood or something.
I mean, yeah,
underneath
it's
it.
not hard to do, but so often movies will just defer to CG because they
Well,
can.
that
I don't
seems
think this
odd.
movie had the budget for CG.
There was some CG.
I don't think you'd like just to bite on the arm. I didn't find it particularly
The
impressive.
CG in this movie was bad.
The few times it's used, yeah, that kind of shows its budget.
Honestly, like
the practical
effects
effects
are
are-
worth talking about because
yeah,
like
let's do that.
I constantly flowed between thinking the practical effects were really good and then just going and swinging to the opposite side where it
think-
was like, this is just a guy in a black morph suit that's a little textured.
See, I thought that like all of like the like the creepy demon hands and all that stuff in the movie, like I guess maybe because at a certain point she flips up a bunch of mattresses and they have like this dark mold over them, and that's kind of creepy. But I thought like the demon hands looked really goofy when they were practical, and CGI they weren't any better.
I didn't think they. I mean, in their design a little bit, they kind of look like dry dog turds.
See, the one part that I did think was actually kind of creepy was it's like the first night, I think, after she's performed the seance, she wakes up and her two sisters are like balled up in a corner
In her closet,
room.
yeah.
In her closet, and then she turns around and it's her father, but he's naked and he's just like quietly whispering her voice and walking closer. It gave me the sort of feeling like someone from like It Follows, where
Yeah,
it's just like this image. It's someone that you know, but it's warped and it's like
I thought that
malicious.
scene was pretty creepy too, and it didn't even lose me when she gets thrown onto the bed and all of the hands like come up from the bed. I thought the effects in that scene worked pretty well for me. Like you mentioned, the hands do look a little bit like turd hands.
Yes,
a
do.
little bit, but I thought the practical effects in that, like having the hands coming up from the bed and like grabbing her and touching her and stuff, that gave me very much like Repulsion vibes.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
would agree.
the effects were kind of done in the same way. I mean, Repulsion is a much older movie, but the way they did that was still the same. I think that whole sequence is maybe the most effective in the movie for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I kind of disagree in that I feel like the hands in the bed kind of undercut the creepiness of the dad a little bit.
I feel like
because
it's such an exaggeration compared to the sort of this.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, it was still effective though. I feel like it just undercut a little bit of the subtlety of the father stuff.
See, maybe the reason it worked better for me is because watching that scene, I was expecting them to do the really cheap, easy move of all of a sudden having him like rush up into the camera, like get right up in her face and jump scare. And then they didn't do that. And I was like, oh, good. So maybe
Yeah.
I just set my expectations
It was
too
kind
low.
of dumb that he did turn into like black morph suit poop man.
Yeah, that's what the demon looks like. You know, I think in terms of the effects, the times that the practical effects don't work for me is when they're combined with the CG, because the CG does not look great, and so it undercuts the practical effects. The few times where it's like just practical effects, I think it works pretty well.
I would agree with that for the most part. The main demon monster still kind of looked bad, and I think that was mostly practicals.
Yeah,
But-
well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a morph suit with textures digitally put on it.
Yeah.
I think in some of the close-ups it might have been practical, but it was definitely CG a few times. Yeah, the demon was kind of uninspired. I liked it when it was like just a shadow like on the walls and stuff, but then when it is just like a big walking featureless turd man, that's when it loses me.
Well, and it's weird because the first time we see him, he's kind of out of focus.
Yeah.
And we were saying how he kind of looked like Raisin Boy from Amityville.
Yeah, well,
Awakening.
when you see his reflection in like the television behind her, I think when they're using that kind of subtlety, it works much better than when you actually see
Yeah,
it.
I would agree.
And like when you see him walking past windows a lot, and it's just sort of like a dark silhouette, that stuff works a lot better than the poop man.
Yeah. Honestly,
the
I
poop
feel
man.
like they had a lot of set pieces that they wanted to do, so they kind of just built a movie around them.
Yeah.
And
It's a shame because if it's supposed to be this actually big true story where it's like the police actually confirm something paranormal, which I did a little more research. There's still not a whole lot. Apparently the police just like doors were opening unnaturally, and there was
Spooky.
a Jesus was disconnected from like a crucifix, and
Oh.
so it seems like it has all this hype around it just because some dumb police did some crazy superstitious policemen.
You
just,
know what? You know what
confirm
would
something's
have?
paranormal.
You know what would have been an interesting movie if they had done this instead? Because they could, if they're doing the based on a true story thing. They should have just had when the cops show up at the beginning, and then they like. Instead of cutting back to 3 days beforehand, they should have had it just play out in real time from there, where she like dies that night, and then see the police investigating the circumstances of what happened, and then spooky shit happens to them while that's happening. I think that would have been a more interesting movie.
Yeah, because I actually kind of would have dug that. Of course, we can't. We can't
Depends
just
on the
speculate and all
depends on
that,
the
but-
execution, of course.
yeah,
But
I think they could even cross cut it between what they have and some of that.
Yeah,
too, you know?
that's
Because
true.
it seems like with like Rec and stuff, I mean, maybe this director just thinks apartments are scary, but
Yeah, right?
that if he can make a movie like a zombie movie that takes place in an apartment building to try and just set it in like one apartment and
that's
have
one of
this
the
paranormal stuff.
That's one of the strongest things about Rec is its setting, I think. I mean, that's a different movie for a different day, but having the whole thing taking place in this lockdown apartment building is really tense, especially like with these people like trying to navigate around a familiar setting that has become sinister, you know?
Yeah, which is weird because this movie does that same thing, except I didn't find, the stuff they did in the apartment scary at all.
Well, because
No.
following the possession of the girl is honestly it's almost like we've seen this in a lot of other movies
Well,
before.
that's the thing.
it felt
It's-
very derivative.
it's
of other
extremely
stuff.
it's extremely predictable. I would say overall it's a very unoffensive film. There were only a few times where I laughed because of how stupid something was, not more so than like your average film. It didn't give me enough of like the fresh perspective that I was looking for. It felt like a by the number James Wan film. I think James Wan is a slightly more competent director, maybe not necessarily a more creative director, but I mean, he knows how to make the kinds of movies that have become his thing, you know? I wanted to see something that I hadn't seen before in this movie, and I didn't.
No, I feel like, once again, like, they had a lot of set pieces in mind for, like, monster effects and stuff,
Right.
and they kind of built the story around it. But the thing is, they didn't have a focused story to put that in, and so it became just uninspired by the numbers stuff, you know?
One of my bigger problems with it is it almost felt insulting to the viewer's intelligence a few times, where it kind of like spoon feeds you stuff.
yes,
It's really
yeah.
not hard to figure out. And like you were talking about while we were watching it, the repetition of certain
Right,
things.
just like
where
that-
they'll keep saying the same lines over and over again, and even having like a memory of the spoken line or something. Like they don't trust you to take in the
Or like
information.
when she's walking and under her is a giant copy of the book
of the
page.
instruction booklet.
And
yeah.
then at the end, when it's almost like they do like this giant like usual suspect style like reflection on all the events in the movie
of the
And-
the detective typing out his report or whatever, and
Or
they just
like even
like
before when it's like Veronica, it's like during the big climax where they cut back to every single like spooky event that occurred within the movie itself, when she has like her, I don't even know what to call it, her revelation or the end of her character arc.
I mean, it was barely even a revelation. Like it was.
It wasn't. It was
was-
more a repetition.
It
Of,
was
like everything.
Well, the thing is
see
that
if we didn't get it.
Is that it's treated like a revelation, where like that, like we talked about in the really dumb ending of My Bloody Valentine 3D. Where Jensen Ackles, like, it goes
He takes
back
off.
and you see him at all of the murder sites, like taking off his mask,
Right.
and it's like, oh, it was him. That was treated the same way in Veronica, but the revelation is just she was possessed and not being strictly haunted,
which seems
which is like 6 of one, half dozen of the other, you know, like. What's the fucking difference?
Well, you know what really confused me about that whole section is they went out of their way to show the 4-year-old kid drawing this like symbol of like invocation.
Yeah, because she gives him the fucking instruction booklet, and because he's 4, he flips to another page and he can't read. And so he draws a symbol of invocation on the wall next to all the symbols of protection.
it's like,
Yeah, but
good
why
job.
even have that if like
Yeah.
you're gonna say she's been possessed from the
whole-
beginning?
Right. Well, that was another thing too. It's like he turns the page and you see him starting to draw it, and you're like, oh no, he's going to invoke the demon instead of banishing it. But they've already proven that those banishment symbols don't work earlier on, and the demon is already there anyway. So what does the symbol of invocation add to the threat? The demon's already been invoked. That's the point of the whole fucking movie.
Well, yeah, because we see earlier she draws these like symbols of protection to put above the beds, and they just like immediately burn up, you know?
Yeah, well, she sees the demon in in the kid's room one night and goes in there and just it touches the hanging symbols and they just catch fire.
Oh
So
yeah, and it
it's
also it goes to choke one of the little sisters, and it turns into like a Muppet hand right at the end and goes around her neck.
it does sometimes look like a Muppet hand. It would see that's the thing. Like I was saying earlier,
the
when
mix
they
of the
the mix of the
CGI
CG and the
yeah,
practical
no.
doesn't work.
You know what scene was the most baffling to me in this movie though is the whole backwards sequence.
See, for me, it was all because this like twice, or maybe even 3 times in the movie, there's just like a Spanish rock song that begins to play as she's looking into like these glow in the dark stars that she has above her bed.
Well, apparently, I was reading on the IMDb page that is an actual Spanish rock band called Heroes of Silence, and
Gotta milk them for all
and
they're worth.
every like the entire soundtrack of the movie was recorded by that band.
Okay,
And and even all the instrumental stuff, and she's like wearing one of their t-shirts in a bunch of the scenes, and she has the posters and stuff on the wall. I'm not saying that it worked. I'm just like, that's why they kept doing that.
They
'Cause
gotta
I was
milk
curious.
'em.
I was
They
curious
gotta
about
milk 'em
this.
dry.
is it like she listened to them while she was alive, and they did the music then? Or
I don't know if it's that deep.
Was that the same band that was playing at the high schoolers party? The 15-year-olds party?
Probably.
Just adults playing rock music with a bunch of teenagers around.
Probably, yeah.
yeah, that just felt really weird. Like this movie seemed to like not really shift in tones, because it was all, you know, trying to be a horror movie, but it would go from like really like synthy, like sort of John Carpenter-esque, and then it would move into like other like more orchestral kind of music, and it just felt
Talk to Heroes of Silence about that.
yes. I just felt like it didn't
Heroes of Be Silent, please. I've had enough of this music.
it's almost like they didn't know how to fill all this time. They knew they wanted to tell the possession story of this girl, but the problem is the difference between this real possession and any other made-up movie possession is just your willingness to want it to be true, which is like, I don't.
It did feel very music video-y at times, especially in that scene where like she's walking forwards and everybody else is walking backwards, which I think is just supposed to be like
spooky.
Yeah,
she sees herself. Spooky.
It's a metaphor. It's just to reflect her internal state. I mean, that's been done in like so many music videos, and I mean, it's a cool visual, and that's why everybody does it, but it didn't make any sense in the context of the film.
Honestly, that with the combination of her like banging her head against the mirror just made me feel like they were trying to rip off Twin Peaks.
A little bit. It did, yeah. There was so much in this movie that I had seen before.
Well, yeah, pretty much everything. By the numbers. They didn't do anything new.
That I don't think I've seen in a movie before is a floor cleaner jingle be sung so much and so like endearingly by the characters.
I hope they got paid for that, honestly.
Because I believe that probably
Kintea
is an actual thing.
Oh, I'm sure it's an actual
absolutely.
thing. But as you pointed out, Benwell, it's like as if a movie equivalent of this in America, they just started singing like the Kit Kat bar jingle.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. So let's talk about
It's a soft song.
Let's talk about why they do that, because I think that's one of the weakest things in this movie, because it just doesn't. It seems really stupid to me. She discovers from the Hasbro instruction booklet that if you don't say goodbye to a spirit at the end of the seance, then it's gonna follow you, and that's why she's being haunted / possessed. So, but also to say goodbye, you don't just tell it goodbye. You have to chant a mantra or sing a soft song.
Yeah. Why even have an adios on the board if you're not gonna have that be the goodbye?
And also, like, in the first seance during the eclipse, like, the glass breaks and Veronica starts, like, seizing. So, like, how are they supposed to say goodbye?
The other two are supposed to sing Kintea at her.
Yeah.
Because they need to clean the floors anyway, so, win-win.
So then at the end, when they have that second seance, they sing the Kintea song because it's a song that even the children know because it's on TV all the time. It makes me wonder, could you just, like, sing the alphabet song just over and over again?
I mean...
And make the demons go bye-bye?
I feel like that would be an equally generic, spooky song to sing to get a
Go away,
demon.
ghost. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Just seems weird that they would make it a floor cleaner jingle. Why not just choose like like any other song that might have been popular?
Well,
around
I mean,
that
who
time,
knows?
or-
Like maybe in the early '90s in Spain, like that commercial
their shit?
like that was
That
it
was
was on
what
TV
everyone-
it was on TV all the fucking time. Just like the Kit Kat equivalent in America, like that's
That
on
just
TV all the
seems so-
time. I mean, I get their reasoning, but in the context of the movie, it seems really dumb. And also, for the answer to fight the demon to be as simple as, oh, you just gotta have a seance and say goodbye.
Yeah.
But make sure you just don't be rude, just say goodbye. You don't hang up the phone without saying goodbye. Why are you gonna talk to a demon and not say goodbye?
I as I mentioned before, everything feeling rushed. It's that, like, her breakdown of whatever she's going through feels like it happens on a whim. Like, she seems fine for a lot of other moments, but then when it's time for her to have to like be crazy and to start causing trouble, then of course she goes crazy and starts causing trouble when she tries to go to her friends, which that whole thing really confused me, her relationship with her friends after the seance, because they look like they hate her, but then they don't actually hate her, but then they really
do
they
actually
really
hate
do
her.
hate her.
Well, because we find out that when she was whispering or whatever after the first seance, she whispered that she was going to die on like 3 days later or something like that. So I guess that freaked them out and they didn't want to associate with her. But that scene is really dumb when they go to the party at the one girl's house, which is happening in broad daylight, mind you.
Right, yeah.
Which I
that's-
thought was a little weird because, like, usually when the kids have parties, they have them at night.
90s kids, yeah.
90s kids partying during the daytime. But she goes and just yells at them to, like, come back and do the seance again and just looks like a total crazy person. So, of course, they throw her out. I didn't understand why that scene was there, especially then when she was just able to have the seance with the kids again later. Although I guess it didn't work. Like, she still got a big turd hand shoved down her throat and died.
Yeah. You know why they had that scene? It was to feature the rock band.
Probably. Heroes of Silence was like, we want to be in a scene. We did all the music.
Want to hang around a bunch of little like.
We want to hang out with a bunch of 15-year-olds.
Yeah. Which I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I didn't really like the lead actress, Veronica.
I thought she was okay.
I thought she did an okay
I thought
job.
she was
so
okay.
plain, and I didn't feel her expressions changed at all during the movie. It just seems so one note. Like,
This was her first film.
okay, and that's. I guess that could be forgiven, but again, like that, you got to try and find someone.
See, I blame most of that on her not having material to work with.
I guess
I do too, 'cause-
more than her acting ability
I didn't feel
itself.
like I didn't feel that closeness with her like siblings or anything like that either. And
Well, once
I'm sure
again,
that must be hard,
I
but-
think that comes down to the script more than her as an actor. I think in terms of showing emotion, she did a fine job.
I just thought it was so.
But I mean, there's nothing spectacular about any of these performances. Like the we were saying the youngest brother looks like Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
He's got these big bug eye spectacles and this like big mop of curly hair.
He's like, I don't know. I know he's just a little kid, but I hate that fucker, man. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
That
but I
was
just found him-
I mean, I know he was like a child, but he was not a good actor.
Constantly pissing his bed.
constantly pissing himself, and it just seemed like.
And then
Just so weird.
he would go to Veronica and be like, "I won't wet the bed again tomorrow." And then the next day is like, "I wet the bed."
Well, yeah, because they do that. Like they show that like the kid is like, he's like, oh, Dad read this book to me last night and all that, and so the Veronica's like, oh God, like the demon's gonna try and eat him or something. But then they turn it around. They have the I don't know if this is a spoil. As we mentioned, yeah,
We're
she's
way
possessed.
spoiler territory.
She's not haunted. She's possessed.
Which
So,
undermines like half of the movie, honestly.
Right, and what's unfortunate, it's not like other movies where they try and teeter that line where it's like, oh, was it real or was this all just like just her having to be a woman?
That's what I thought they were doing, and I was about to get really frustrated. And then they proved beyond a doubt at the end that there was something paranormal happening.
They
which then
tripled down on that.
then frustrated me that they tried to imply that there maybe wasn't.
Yeah. It seems so wishy-washy.
The way, like I said earlier,
couldn't make a decision.
The way they approach it is like it's some big revelation, but it's not. Like, being possessed and being haunted, like, really, what's the difference in the grand scheme of things? Why does it matter that it's one over the other?
Well, the problem was they couldn't make a decision, much like how many dream sequences they had in this movie. They couldn't just stick with something. They had to undo whatever they did.
Right,
which completely, flattened the movie out and removed any stakes or scariness it had.
I would love to see in a movie like this where something scary happens and they don't just wake up and think it was a dream. Where something scary happens and they run the fuck out of their house and like sleep in their car, like parked 3 blocks down the road or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, hey, isn't that what happens in The Conjuring? Like, when shit really hits the fan for the first time, they're like, let's go to this hotel.
Well, you see, Eugene, The Conjuring is a good movie.
Yeah, God, that's...
I mean, I say that as somebody who's pretty fucking tired of James Wan and everything he stands for, but The Conjuring is a legitimately good film.
And it's something that we had said before. This sort of movie, like ghost haunting or demon possession, has been done so many times. For decades. But you still can have a movie that makes it fresh if you have that sort of eye and you got a style that will make it something new again.
This maybe for somebody who has never seen a demonic possession / ghost movie before, they might think this is a fantastic film. I don't think Veronica is like a bad movie. It's just very uninspired, and it doesn't bring any sort of fresh perspective to an extremely overdone and tired subgenre of horror. I think if you're gonna do a demonic possession / ghost haunting a family or a house movie, you have to do something new.
Well, and that's the thing too. I'm baffled by how good of a response this movie's getting because,
multiple people have told me to watch this because they thought it was like so scary and so great. And I mean, I know we watch more scary movies than the average Joe, but
have we spoiled ourselves? Can we not enjoy movies the same way?
No, that's not true, Eugene.
like I was saying earlier, it's just so wishy-washy that it removes any stakes the movie has, and it can't be scary if it doesn't feel like anything can legitimately happen,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I hate to say it, but this might fall into that cliche.
Don't say it.
That cliche.
Shut up,
No.
man. Get the fuck out of here.
Honestly, though, I feel like people might be thinking this is a scary movie than it actually is because it's in Spanish.
But I know people who like this movie who don't like to read subtitles. Like those kind of people. I don't think
And
it's
even
just
then,
that.
a horror movie like this, or just a lot of horror movies in general, it's the scares are not set up on the language. It's more about just the way it's crafted. So I think that the things that people would find scary about it would have to be related to whatever spooky
My
thing
counterpoint, though, is I feel like people who don't normally watch foreign movies are going to be more forgiving of the script.
Maybe.
Watching this
maybe.
than they would if it was in English.
Potentially. I mean, there is definitely something to say for things being lost in translation, and sometimes it's the bad things that are being lost, so that could be a possibility. I don't know though,
Because I thought the script was bad in this movie, honestly. Like, visually, this movie looked nice.
does
and
look
that's one
nice.
of the
Yeah, it does
strongest
look
suits
really
of
nice.
it. Is
They
the
do some cool-
cinematography
they
is
do some
kind of
cool
cool. They
camera
do some
stuff.
cool rolls with the camera.
Yeah.
And some interesting things. But the script is just uninspired and bad. And I feel like
More so from a story standpoint than a dialogue standpoint. Some of the dialogue is pretty fucking ham-fisted and corny, especially the exposition, but a lot of the dialogue itself is not what bothers me. It's the story. The plot doesn't do what I need it to do to be interesting.
yeah, I don't know, man, because like we were talking about earlier, the whole Kintea stuff, stuff like that, like
Yeah.
if it was in English, we would be rolling our eyes even harder than we already were at it,
Well, I think the fact we were rolling our eyes, it didn't work for us. I'm sure there are other people that might consider it endearing, but certainly I think it turned us off, even being in a different language. So I think that it's just a matter of it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. And again, I think that's because we watch so many more movies that
Well, yeah, we've seen this same story so many times before that at a certain point you know what's gonna happen. And if at some point this film had really like subverted my expectations and done something really far out there and crazy, I would have given it massive props for that. But I mean, it takes basically the same kind of pacing and direction as any other haunting movie.
it totally takes this tired, ripped from the headlines, paranormal story, and it does nothing new with it.
One thing that it started to do that I found a bit interesting, but then was never explored at all, was when Veronica goes back to see Sister Death again to like get her help with dealing with the demons or whatever. She says something about God, and Sister Death says like God has nothing to do with this, leave him out of it, which I was like, okay, that could be interesting. A demonic possession thing that doesn't have anything to do with like religion, but then there's zero further exploration of that.
Yeah, because
It's like baiting me without actually hooking me.
they don't
you know?
fall into the traps of heavy-handed Christian symbolism in this movie.
Except for a couple of times when the crucifix falls off the wall.
Yeah.
And the nuns. The spooky nun.
Yeah. That didn't save it
No.
in any way, so...
No. Well, because they didn't explore that. That's something that I would be more interested to see. Like, this might be kind of a bad example because I ultimately did not like the movie I'm about to mention, but the Iranian film Under the Shadow that Eugene and I watched several months ago, I didn't think it was a very good movie. I thought it was boring, but at least it examined the idea of a haunting from like an Islamic perspective, which I thought was really interesting because it's something that's unique to that culture and something that we don't see as much of in the Western world. And I mean, I know Spain is not Iran, and they're, Catholic, which is something we're obviously familiar with in this country. But there's just, they started to do that with saying that it had nothing to do with religion, and then they never explored that at all. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity to make the film more interesting.
Well, yeah, and they fall into like Norse symbolism,
But
have no explanation for why.
Right, it's just the symbol of protection. So yeah, it's like they have these little buds of like possibly interesting things sprouting off the main trunk of the story, but then they don't fucking go anywhere, and it still just does the same fucking thing that we've seen a million times before. I don't know. Overall, not a terrible movie, but didn't really do much for me in the long run. You want to rate?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's rate this baby.
Why don't you start, Eugene?
Well, I think I've explained most of my feelings. I just felt it almost did not trust the audience to piece anything together for themselves. And so it just is constantly beating you over the head with any little bit of exposition they try and give you, which means that there's very little exposition because they spend so much time repeating the same shit over and over again. And again, as we mentioned, it's things that we've seen in movies much better than this, in Repulsion or The Exorcist, or I'd even say things like The Last Exorcism, where it's not a great movie, but that they still they do that, like, you know, girl possessed by a demon thing, I think, a lot better. And I wasn't really convinced by any of the acting. I wasn't a fan of the lead actress, and I didn't feel the relationship between her and her siblings, and it just fell all flat for me. So I'm gonna have to give it a 2 stars. I think it's kind of a stinker. 2 pods, right? Pods. That's
what we do here.
Yeah. 2 pods in the sky, blocking out the sun.
Ben?
Well, I'll give this movie, that it had nice visuals. It looked nice. And some of the camera movement was cool. And, I even liked some of the practical effects. I thought the person-shaped mold spots on the bottom of the beds was kind of cool. But, overall, this movie, like I was saying earlier, it just couldn't commit to any of the moves it was making. And it totally deflated the tension of the movie and made it too flat. And a lot of the stuff we've seen before in dozens of other exorcism, possession, ghost movies, like it did nothing new with the material, and it just fell flat into cliche after cliche. And it was a bummer, man, because I thought they had potential from the start going into it, because I was like, Wreck is pretty good, Wreck is a good movie.
And people were saying good things about it.
But the reason Wreck was good is because it did something original.
For the time.
For the
yeah,
time,
definitely.
absolutely. But that was the problem with this movie. It doesn't really do anything original. It felt like a collection of set pieces that they thought would be spooky to shoot. The story around it just didn't work. It was too heavy-handed, like you were saying, Eugene, with how many times it repeated metaphors and stuff. And then, like, it would go back and forth between...
I would say metaphors is even... It's just more like lines of dialogue.
Well, yeah, it's more repetition than anything,
right.
They like to think they're metaphors,
yeah.
But...
They wish this was French toast. This isn't even bread.
But they just can't commit to anything, and... It's the undoing of this movie. I would not recommend this movie unless you have absolutely nothing else to watch on Netflix. If you're coming short of any other recommendations,
I mean, watch it over Ravenous or the Cloverfield Paradox.
Yeah, I mean,
say that.
This isn't a movie to seek out, though. I would say,
agree.
I would probably give this a 2.5 pods out of 5. I thought the visuals and the moldy human shaped spots worked well enough, but the rest of the movie was blah.
Isn't that kind of when a movie is like, it can be supported just by like the mold? People are like, well, that was
It was a cool effect. It was something I hadn't seen before.
Look dirty. Yeah.
It was one of the only original things in the movie, and that's why it stood out so much to me.
Yeah. I would say that ultimately this movie is just a lot of missed potential to be unique in an extremely tired subgenre. It's pretty unoffensive. It's not a miserable watch, but it's also just totally uninspired. And if you've seen a lot of movies like this, you've seen all of this stuff done before, and you've probably seen it done better. Like, there are better movies that tell basically the same story. So in that sense, like, yeah, why would you go seek it out when you can go just see the same story done better, you know? I think I'm going to give it a 2.5 pods as well. It's not terrible by any means. It does some cool stuff visually, but ultimately just kind of uninteresting and predictable.
Well, let's leave this on a more interesting note. Let's give recommendations on possession type of movies we think do work.
All right,
to watch instead.
Before we do that, let me give the average rating.
Okay, sure.
So the average rating for Veronica is 2.3 pods. See it or don't. Whatever, you know.
You're not missing out a lot.
If you don't go watch this movie, you're not really missing anything. But if you do see it, you're not really losing anything either. So I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, but I like your idea.
Let's each think of one possession, exorcism, ghost movie type of thing. Instead of Veronica, I would probably recommend just watching the original Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it a month or two ago, and it's surprising how well that movie still holds up today.
I didn't see that movie for the first time until I was in college.
I think it's genuinely spooky even today, and the story keeps you invested throughout. It's kind of a slow burn at first, which I think has not aged the best for modern audiences, but I think it's still enthralling, and the cinematography in it is really great. So watch that instead of Veronica if you have the option.
Well, I would have said The Exorcist as well, because I even feel the slow burn in that just sort of helps to set it up as a more a serious horror movie that is willing to take its time to really establish, because they take a lot of time setting up the little girl as a character before all this happens to her, just to actually show like how nice she is and then how awful she gets near the end of the movie.
There's actually juxtaposition.
Right. Yeah, whereas in Veronica I felt it was all just one note. But as I mentioned before, it's not a perfect movie. It has its issues, but I think something like The Last Exorcist is definitely worth a watch. It came out in 2009, 2011,
something like
that, I believe. And it's about
The Last Exorcist or The Last Exorcism?
Oh, Last Exorcism, I think.
Okay, that came out in 2010.
2010. Okay.
I have not actually seen that.
Me either.
Right. The Last Exorcism, because it's about a exorcist, but he like openly acknowledges that what he's doing is like it's a con game, that for the people he's doing it for, they help them out in some way to work through their problems, but he treats it all as just smoke and mirrors.
Is that the found footage one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But then he's taken to an exorcism where it seems much more than just another act. But it tries to play it along that line for a lot of the movie. I don't want to say what ends up happening in it, but I think that it, because I think it's always lame when a movie might just try to go all the way and say it's a full haunting, because then you don't have that extra layer about what the internal struggle for that character is like.
The skepticism is interesting.
Right, because it gives a better understanding to what might be causing a person to act this way, that it's some form of tragedy or just like the pains of like growing up and maturing. But Veronica doesn't have that, and I think The Last Exorcism accomplishes that in a better way. So it's not a great movie. It has its problems, but it's definitely worth a watch.
Interestingly, The Last Exorcism has a lower rating than Veronica on both
IMDb
and Rotten Tomatoes. Not that says anything, but
it's because it's in English.
Well, I would. I think The Exorcist is the obvious first choice, but I'm gonna recommend the original Amityville Horror from the 70s.
Oh, interesting.
That is maybe my favorite haunting / possession movie. It's really, really fucking well done. It's got a much nicer slow burn and escalation to the crazy shit that happens at the end. The acting is really solid. It's really well shot. It's just all around a more interesting film. And also, for its time, doing something new and interesting that I think does still hold up today. You can't go wrong with that. So there you have it. 3 better films to see than Veronica.
Yeah, and even if you've seen Veronica, these other 3 movies are worth watching to see, you know, those same ideas done, but a little more successfully.
And again, if you enjoyed Veronica, we're not saying that you're wrong for enjoying it. It's just, again, we've watched enough movies where it feels like we've seen most of this stuff, and so it's just not as effective for us.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I don't think Veronica is a bad film. Like, I was not miserable watching it. It just retreads so much familiar ground that it didn't surprise me or scare me, because I felt like I already knew what was going to happen in each subsequent scene. Like, it's a fine movie. Like, it's produced and like directed decently, you know, like it's an okay movie. So like, if you like Veronica, it's not like you like shit. It's just They're I think better movies that get at the same kind of ideas that Veronica is getting at. Hell, like another movie that I can not say was a really great movie, but at least does that same kind of thing where you get like a different cultural perspective on the same story is, did you guys see that movie The Possession from back in like 2012? Where there's like the evil Jewish demon like trapped in the box or whatever, and it comes from like Jewish folklore and stuff like that. I mean, it does a lot of the same stuff by the numbers, but it provides a different perspective. It's not just like a Christian thing, just like how Under the Shadow is from an Islamic standpoint of the same story. The Possession is from like a Jewish perspective, and so it's at least more interesting because of that. So I mean, there's a lot of decent exorcism possession movies out there. So
yeah, watch the movie Possession.
Oh yes, watch Possession. We're gonna have to do an episode on that movie at some point. That movie's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But I believe that brings us to the end of our show. Next week, you can expect an episode where we watch and review 3 movies from 1974.
Blast from the past,
determined by Eugene picking one number and me picking another number. And then that's the year that we're doing.
Science,
man. So next episode will be more of an examination of what horror was like in the year 1974 than around a particular
Should we
horror theme.
Announce the movies for 74?
Yeah, if you've got them, let's do it.
Yeah, so let me bring it up. Because I was going through these, and we're a little limited because some of the movies, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously deserve their own episode.
Individual episodes. We've already done Black Christmas. That was from 74.
So I know the first one is a movie called Phase 4, which is the science fiction horror movie about killer ants.
Ooh.
Sounds fun.
The second movie is Blood for Dracula, which is an Andy Warhol take on Dracula.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
And then the third is Death Dream.
Which I have actually seen before, and I remember enjoying. So
yes,
I'm looking forward to talking about that one.
Solid lineup right now. Those may change, but probably we'll stick to those.
Yeah, if not, we'll let you know. But expect that next week. That should be a fun episode. If you like the show, you can please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts that allow you to rate and review. We would really appreciate that very much. We love you, and we'll continue to squeeze our nice, tasty words into your open ear holes. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at podpeoplepod, or you can email us if emails are still your jam at podpeoplepod@gmail.com. Send us questions. We want to start up a question of the week segment. Send us recommendations, things you'd like to see mini-pods or full-length themed episodes on. Like I said, this film was requested by Katie Connell, so thank you again for that, and we're hoping to get some more of those requests in pretty soon. The show is produced by Ben and scored by Ben also, and edited by me, and you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. Van Awesome. Do you guys have anything you'd like to plug / drop?
Listen to more episodes.
Yeah, we've got a bit of a backlog. If you're a new listener, go back and check out some of our older stuff. Be warned, some of those early episodes are not of similar quality. We're still finding our footing a little bit. But there's good discussions there, so go back and listen to those anyway.
Yeah, you got some fun stuff in there.
Yeah.
Just dig in a little bit.
Eugene, are you still doing back rubs with your hook hand?
The weather's been getting nicer, and people are out and about more, so it's harder to find that to really get to know somebody, because then everyone's crowding around. They're like, get off of them, what are you doing? They're screaming, and it's like, well, don't you think I feel bad about it? And I just I'm taking a little break for it right now, but I'm actually doing I'm selling plugs, so I'm plugging my plugs, and I'm also
what kind of plugs? Like hair plugs? Like electrical plugs? If electrical plugs, is it just the plug without the cord?
Like sink plugs?
Or like sink plugs or bathtub plugs?
It's butt plugs.
Butt plugs. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm dropping those. I'm dropping those plugs, and
plugs for plugs.
I got the plug on the drops. So if you need a back rub, you gotta find someone else. But if you need something shoved up your ass, I'm your man. So that's it for me. Just plugging my drops. Drop plugs.
All right. Well, thank you as always for listening. We love you. We appreciate you, and we hope that we scare the shit out of you sometimes. And hey, don't use Ouija boards, even ones that you buy from the store. Or make sure you read the instructions if you do.
Yes, and use Contea. It makes your floors shiny.
It makes your floors shiny. Okay, bye.